The rhythms of the earth, the whispers of the wind, and the ancient hums of the ancestors, this is where healing begins in African culture. Long before the advent of Western medicine, African societies relied on deeply rooted traditions of spiritual healing. In these lands, the realms of the physical and the spiritual are inseparable. In every village, nestled in the heart of the savanna or the lush jungle, lies a shaman, healer, or herbalist, whose wisdom spans centuries. These individuals are not merely practitioners of medicine, but are seen as intermediaries between the seen and unseen worlds. Healing in Africa is not just a physical process, it is an intricate dance with the spirits. Each plant, each stone, each chant carries an energy that reaches beyond the physical to restore balance. It is a symbiotic relationship with the gods, where healing is not solely based on herbal concoctions but on aligning the body with the spiritual forces that govern life. He who heals does not just treat the body, he speaks to the soul, as the elders say. These practices are timeless, passed down orally through generations, safeguarded by spiritual leaders who understand that the knowledge of the ancients is sacred. The healer is revered, not only for their knowledge of plants and rituals, but for their ability to connect with the ancestral spirits that guide the healing process. As we journey through this exploration, we will discover how deeply intertwined African medicine is with the power of the gods. In African traditions, healing is not just about curing an ailment. It's about restoring harmony to the entire being, body, mind, and spirit. This is why many African healing practices are often misunderstood by those unfamiliar with the complex spiritual system from which they originate. For those in the know, there is no clear line separating the spiritual from the physical. In fact, illness is often seen as a result of a spiritual imbalance or disruption of the natural order. As the sun sets over the vast savanna, one may hear the sound of drums calling the spirits, signaling that a healing ritual is about to begin. The healer, draped in ceremonial robes, prepares to invoke the ancestors, invoking their strength to bring about a cure. What happens next is a journey into the unknown, where faith and spirituality intertwine with the remedies of the earth. Hold your breath, for what is about to unfold is far beyond mere medicine. In the heart of every African community, there is a sacred figure, the healer, or Nana, Babalawo, or Sangoma depending on the region. These individuals hold an esteemed place within society, revered not only for their knowledge of medicinal plants and remedies, but for their deep connection to the spiritual realm. The healer is more than just a medical practitioner, they are a conduit between the living and the ancestors, a spiritual guide, and often, a community leader. The role of the healer in African societies is intricately linked to the cosmology of the people. Healing is not seen as a separate profession but as a vital component of life itself. A healer does not choose the path chooses them, say the elders, for many healers are believed to be born with a divine calling. Their journey begins from a young age, where they might experience dreams, visions, or a spiritual awakening that signals their purpose. This calling is not taken lightly, for it comes with great responsibility. In some cultures, the training of a healer is rigorous, often requiring years of apprenticeship under a senior healer. This journey is both physical and spiritual, as the initiate undergoes trials to prove their worthiness. They must learn the medicinal properties of plants, the art of divination, and the ancient rituals that align the body with the spiritual forces. They are taught the sacred chants and prayers used in healing ceremonies, each one believed to carry divine power. Words are weapons, and the chant is the arrow, says a renowned elder, emphasizing the potency of spiritual language in the healing process. The healer's power extends beyond the material world. They are expected to communicate with spirits, consult oracles, and interpret messages from the ancestors. In times of illness, the community turns to these healers for guidance, knowing that their knowledge transcends earthly limits. In some cases, healers may use divination tools such as cowrie shells, bones, or tarot-like cards to channel messages from the spirit world. The answers lie in the unseen, they often say, a reminder that physical symptoms are only one part of the puzzle. However, the healer's authority is not absolute. They work in collaboration with the spiritual forces, and any healing performed must be done with the blessing of the gods. The healer is, after all, just the vessel through which the divine flows. The Nana or Sangoma does not boast of their abilities, rather, they remain humble, acknowledging that it is the spirit world that holds the true power. The relationship between the healer, the community, and the spirits is built on trust, respect, and an understanding that the line between life and death is fragile, and the healer serves as its protector. The role of the healer goes far beyond the earthly, transcending the known to touch the unknown. What happens when a healer is faced with an illness that even they cannot cure? Or when an evil spirit enters the body of a loved one? The answers lie in the ancient rituals that follow, but these rituals come with their own set of challenges and dangers. As the night draws near, the drums of the healer begin to beat louder, signaling the arrival of a trial that will test everything we thought we knew about healing. In the world of African healing, the unseen is just as real as the visible. Spiritual forces and deities are the invisible hands that guide the healer's work, ensuring that their interventions are both potent and divine. African cosmology believes that the universe is ruled by a multitude of spiritual forces that are constantly at play, both benevolent and malevolent. These forces are believed to inhabit everything around us: the sky, the earth, the rivers, and even the very air we breathe. They are as powerful as they are mysterious, and understanding them is key to unlocking the true power of healing. At the center of this spiritual web are the gods, divine beings who govern different aspects of life. They are called by different names in various African cultures, but they all share the same essence: powerful, unseen forces that shape the destiny of humanity. One of the most revered deities in many African cultures is Olodumare or God, who is the supreme being, responsible for the creation of the universe. However, while Olodumare reigns supreme, there are numerous lesser gods or Orisha, in Yoruba culture, Vadsimu, in Shona culture, or Bantu spirits, in Bantu cultures, each of whom oversees a specific realm of life. For example, in the Yoruba tradition, Ogun, the god of iron, is the patron deity of blacksmiths, warriors, and those who work with metal. Shango, the god of thunder and lightning, is believed to offer protection and strength. These gods are often invoked during healing rituals, especially when a person's illness is believed to be the result of a spiritual imbalance or punishment from the gods. The healer, in these cases, is not acting alone but as a servant of the gods, channeling their power to bring about a cure. It is also believed that the ancestors play a crucial role in healing. In African spiritual practice, ancestors are seen as spiritual guides who continue to watch over the living. They are revered as wise protectors who offer guidance and support when needed. In many African cultures, ancestral spirits are called upon during healing ceremonies to intervene on behalf of the living. The belief is that the spirits of the deceased can influence the outcomes of illness, either by offering protection from harm or by warning against actions that may lead to misfortune. The ancestors see beyond the veil, the elders say, meaning that the wisdom of the ancestors is key to restoring health and balance. But it is not just the gods and ancestors who hold sway over the healing process. The forces of nature, the earth, the wind, the water, and the fire, also play a role. In fact, in many African cultures, it is believed that healing can only occur when there is harmony between the human body and the elements. The healer, therefore, must be in tune with nature, using sacred rituals to align the body with the forces of the earth. It is said that only when the healer has balanced the elements, fire, water, earth, and air, can true healing occur. But what happens when the spiritual forces refuse to aid the healer? Or when a deity's wrath falls upon the healer themselves? There are times when the spirits are not so easily appeased, and the healer must venture into the unknown realms, calling on all their strength and knowledge to face the darker forces at play. The path to healing is not always smooth, and the next chapter will reveal the rituals and practices that allow a healer to confront the spirits when the stakes are at their highest. The power of African healing lies not only in the spiritual realm but also in the earthly materials that the healers use. From the towering baobab trees in the savannas to the delicate roots buried deep in the soil, the natural world is teeming with remedies that are revered by traditional healers. In African healing, plants are seen as sacred gifts from the gods. Each leaf, root, or bark carries its own spirit, energy, and power. These natural remedies are integral to many healing rituals, believed to possess spiritual properties that are just as important as their medicinal effects. In African tradition, plants are not merely tools for physical healing but are considered vessels for spiritual energy. The belief is that plants, like humans, have spirits that can interact with the human soul. Healers often go into deep trance-like states during rituals to communicate with the spirits of plants, calling upon their essence to provide the necessary healing. The earth speaks to those who listen, say the elders. This sacred relationship between healer, plant, and spirit is fundamental to African medicine, where every herb and root has a story, a legend, and a purpose. One of the most important plants in African healing is morina, often referred to as the tree of life. Native to many parts of Africa, the leaves, seeds, and pods of the morina tree are used to treat a wide range of ailments, from malnutrition to inflammation and fever. But beyond its physical benefits, morina is also believed to have spiritual power. It is said that the tree's strength can protect the healer during rituals and shield them from negative energies. In some cultures, morina is considered a sacred offering to the gods, used in ceremonies to invoke blessings and to purify spaces. Another sacred plant is African ginger, Zingiber officinale, which is widely used to treat digestive issues, nausea, and fatigue. However, it is also believed to have the ability to connect the healer with ancestral spirits. During ceremonies, the healer may place pieces of African ginger in a circle of candles, allowing its fragrance to fill the air. It is said that the ginger helps to clear the mind and open the spirit to receive messages from the ancestors. The roots of this plant, with their twisting, intricate forms, are symbolic of the deep connection between the healer and the earth, grounded, yet reaching out toward the unseen. The baobab tree is another iconic plant in African healing. Known for its immense trunk and long lifespan, the baobab is revered as the tree of life, and its fruit is used in a variety of medicinal ways. Its leaves are believed to help with high blood pressure and digestive problems, while its fruit is rich in vitamin C and used to boost the immune system. But beyond its physical properties, the baobab is also a spiritual symbol. The tree is said to be a meeting point between the spiritual and physical worlds, with its roots deep in the earth and its branches reaching toward the heavens. Healers often gather beneath the baobab during sacred rituals, invoking its power to channel divine energies and protect the participants. In addition to these well-known plants, countless other herbs and roots are used in African healing practices. For example, bitter kola, devil's claw, sacred aloe, and shea butter are also part of the healer's repertoire. Each plant carries its own unique spiritual and medicinal properties, and the healer must understand the specific uses of each one. The plant knows its purpose, says one healer. It is up to the healer to listen and learn. But what happens when the healer is confronted with an illness that no plant seems to cure? When the spirits are silent, and the plants refuse to offer their help? In times of great need, when the herbs fail and the gods seem far away, healers must rely on their knowledge of ritual, divination, and spiritual interventions. In the next chapter, we will uncover the deeper rituals that are called upon in moments of crisis, where the stakes are higher and the consequences more profound. The rituals of healing in African culture are not mere acts of tradition, they are profound spiritual practices that bridge the physical and metaphysical worlds. These sacred ceremonies are an essential part of African healing, designed to bring balance, restore harmony, and ensure the flow of life energy throughout the body and spirit. At the core of these rituals is the belief that illness is not just a physical ailment but a spiritual imbalance, often caused by the interference of malevolent forces or disharmony with the gods. Thus, the rituals of healing are seen as an attempt to correct these imbalances, calling upon spiritual entities, ancestral forces, and divine beings for intervention. In many African societies, healing rituals begin with divination. This is the first step in understanding the source of the illness. The healer will often use divination tools such as cowrie shells, bones, or wooden sticks to interpret signs from the spiritual world. The spirits speak in riddles, one healer explains. The diviner listens carefully, for the answer comes not in the way we expect, but in symbols and signs. The divination process helps the healer understand whether the illness is a result of natural causes, spiritual disturbance, or even ancestral anger. Once the cause of the illness is determined, the healer proceeds with the necessary rituals. These rituals often involve prayer, chanting, and the invocation of spirits, as well as offerings to the gods and ancestors. These offerings could range from food and drink to sacred herbs or symbolic items like animal sacrifices. It is believed that such offerings appease the spirits, asking for their help in restoring health to the patient. In some cases, healing rituals are performed under the cover of darkness, a time when the spirit world is believed to be most active. Drums beat in the distance, and sacred songs fill the air, as the healer begins to call upon the divine forces to step in and intervene. In some cultures, healing rituals are performed in sacred spaces, such as groves of trees or special temples, that are believed to be imbued with spiritual energy. For example, in the Yoruba tradition, sacred groves known as Ile-Ifa are often the sites of healing rituals, where the healer, or Babalawo, calls upon the power of Orunmila, the god of wisdom and knowledge. In other regions, healers might conduct their rituals around a central fire, which symbolizes purification and the destruction of negative forces. The fire is seen as a direct link to the spiritual realm, burning away the illness and allowing healing to occur. At the center of many healing rituals is the importance of community participation. Healing is not an isolated practice but a collective experience. The patient, the healer, and the community are all engaged in the process. When we heal together, a healer might say. The collective energy and faith of the community are believed to amplify the healing process, as everyone's belief in the power of the ritual strengthens the connection to the spiritual forces. In some cases, the patient might be asked to join in the ritual, either by dancing, singing, or meditating, as a way of aligning their spirit with the healing energy being channeled. But perhaps one of the most powerful aspects of African healing rituals is the role of music and dance. Traditional drumming and chanting are used to summon the spirits, creating an energetic connection that allows the healer to enter a trance state and communicate directly with the divine. The rhythmic beat of the drums, the call and response chants, and the hypnotic movements of the dancers all work together to raise the spiritual energy needed to bring about healing. It is said that when the rhythm of the drums reaches its peak, the healer enters a deep trance, becoming an instrument through which the gods themselves speak. Suspenseful foreshadowing. But what happens when the healer's trance takes them to a place where the line between the living and the dead begins to blur? When the spirits refuse to cooperate, or when the ritual takes a darker turn? Healing rituals are not without risk, and the deeper the healer journeys into the spirit realm, the more dangerous the path becomes. What happens when a healer's power is tested in ways they cannot anticipate? In the next section, we will explore the role of shamans and divination, and how they navigate the delicate balance between the physical world and the realm of spirits. In African healing traditions, divination stands as a vital practice, a bridge to the spirit world that guides both the healer and the seeker. Shamans and diviners are revered for their ability to see beyond the physical realm, accessing hidden spiritual knowledge. Their role is not just to predict the future, but to uncover the causes of illness, misfortune, and imbalance. The spirits do not speak to everyone, says an elder diviner, but to those who are chosen, who open their hearts to the mysteries of the unseen. Diviners use various tools to communicate with the divine, such as cowrie shells, bones, or sacred divining boards. When someone falls ill or faces a spiritual dilemma, the diviner casts these objects and interprets their positioning. Every symbol and pattern revealed has meaning, drawing on ancient wisdom passed through generations. A diviner must be adept at reading these signs with clarity, for they offer crucial insights into the illness's root cause. A wound on the body can be seen, but a wound on the soul is hidden, one healer explains, pointing to the role of divination in diagnosing invisible spiritual disturbances. The diviner's task is to identify whether an illness is caused by ancestral displeasure, spiritual imbalance, or even malicious forces like witchcraft. The diviner's insights guide the healer on how to proceed, with rituals, offerings, prayers, or herbs, to restore harmony. The diviner's work isn't confined to mere physical diagnoses, as they are expected to seek guidance from the ancestors and the spirits, whose influence may affect the body and soul. The practice of divination goes beyond just tools, it requires a deep spiritual connection. Shamans undergo spiritual training, enduring trials to hone their abilities to communicate with the unseen forces. Some even enter trance states during ceremonies, allowing spirits to possess them and speak directly through their bodies. The spirit comes and takes control. You become their voice, says a diviner. This possession is seen as both a blessing and a test, requiring great strength and wisdom from the diviner. They must remain humble, as it is not the diviner who commands the spirits, but the spirits who choose to guide. Despite the power and reverence surrounding divination, it is not without danger. The spirit realm is unpredictable, and the spirits can be capricious or vengeful. If a diviner oversteps their bounds or calls upon a spirit that cannot be controlled, the consequences can be severe. You must never act with arrogance, warns one elder, for the spirits do not tolerate disrespect. Thus, diviners walk a fine line, always aware of the delicate balance between their human limitations and the immense power of the spirits. But what happens when the spirits refuse to communicate? Or when a diviner's predictions lead the healer into dangerous territories? The next chapter will explore how African spiritual practices continue to survive in the modern world, where the ancient meets the contemporary. Is there a place for traditional healing in a world that increasingly turns to science? The answer may surprise you. As the world modernizes, traditional African spiritual healing faces both challenges and opportunities. The rise of modern medicine and scientific advancements has led many to question the relevance of age-old healing practices. Yet, despite these pressures, African spiritual healing remains deeply entrenched in the fabric of society. While hospitals and pharmacies have become more accessible, many people continue to seek out traditional healers for both physical and spiritual ailments. Modern medicine treats the body, but who heals the spirit? One elder healer asks, emphasizing the continued importance of spiritual care. In urban areas, the influence of traditional healing is still strong, often coexisting alongside modern healthcare. In fact, many Africans use both forms of medicine, integrating spiritual rituals with conventional treatments. For example, a patient might see a doctor for a diagnosis and take prescribed medication, but also visit a healer to address the spiritual aspects of their illness. The blend of science and spirituality is seen not as conflicting but as complementary. Medicine may cure the body, but it is the spirit that sustains, says a healer in the heart of Lagos. However, the rise of modernity has also brought skepticism and misunderstanding toward traditional healing practices. Some view them as outdated or superstitious, while others see them as a threat to the commercialization of healthcare. There have even been instances where governments have attempted to regulate or discourage the use of traditional healing methods. Still, traditional healers continue to hold an esteemed place in their communities. In rural villages, they are often the first point of contact for those seeking healing, and their wisdom is passed down through generations. In response to these challenges, many spiritual healers have adapted by modernizing their practices. Some now incorporate contemporary tools like mobile phones, social media, and even websites to connect with clients. They have recognized the power of the digital age to reach a broader audience, and many healers now offer consultations via phone or video calls. This adaptation to technology is a testament to the resilience of African spiritual healing, which refuses to be confined to the past, yet remains grounded in its ancient wisdom. The world changes, but the spirit remains the same, says one modern-day healer, who has embraced the digital age. Despite these advances, some healers resist modernity, arguing that too much change threatens the loss of ancestral wisdom. When we forget the past, we lose our connection to the ancestors, says one elder healer. These practitioners emphasize that the strength of African spiritual healing lies in honoring the ancient rituals that have sustained generations. But as tradition and modernity continue to clash, what happens when these worlds collide in ways no one expects? Will African spiritual healing evolve and thrive, or will it fade into the shadows? The future of this ancient practice is uncertain, but one thing remains clear: its story is far from finished. If you found the world of African spiritual healing fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more enlightening content. Join us on this journey as we continue to explore the rich traditions and wisdom of African cultures.